So, if you are currently going through a difficult situation or you find yourself in a really horrible position or spot, then this video is for you. I want to talk about a perspective which you can use or implement to avoid suffering through difficult situations or difficult scenarios that you might go through or find yourself in. So, firstly, I want to talk about what actually happened to me. It was actually just recently, and I have passed my school leaving exams. It actually went much better than I initially thought it would, so that's amazing. And now I actually have 3 months before I enroll onto a university, and so I have time until then to decide whether I actually want to go to university or not. And so I have limited time to use to achieve something until then, so that I don't have to go there. But that's irrelevant right now. And so all went well. But the time that led to those exams, as well as the time throughout those exams, it was just one of my worst periods of my life. I could actually say that. Like one of my worst weeks possible that I have ever gone through. And that has taught me several lessons, and I want to share with you some of them, or at least something that you can use, as I mentioned at the beginning, some kind of a mindset which you can use. And so, like if you find yourself in a position, or you might have found yourself before in this position, that basically you have something coming up and you are very stressed, you don't know what to do, you are basically consumed by anxiety, and so you don't know what to do basically. And whilst that's happening, you also have another thing which you want to do. It could be actually, let me talk about my specific situation or my specific scenario that happened. So basically I had my school leaving exams, and I also wanted to work on this YouTube channel and my second one, because this is somewhat like my main thing that I'm currently working on or focusing on. And instead of working on at least one of them, or maintaining one of them and working hard on the other, I wasn't working on either one of those. And that's one of the worst positions that you can possibly find yourself in, because you are not living up to your potential, and you know what your potential can possibly be. And so you know what you can do, but you are not doing it at the same time. And that's a horrible way to live, because what happens is that basically you might have experienced it before, or you might actually be going through it right now. And so listen carefully. It's basically a situation when you start to get eaten from inside, because you know you have to do something, and you know you have something you want to do, and you aren't doing either one of those. Then your own mind will start saying how stupid, how useless, how lazy you are, and basically you won't be able to live with your own self, and you don't want to be in that situation. And I have been in these situations many times before, but it wasn't so bad as it was just a few days ago. And maybe I will talk about my exams, how I went through them, what kind of mindset I had, but in the future videos. So right now I will actually get to the main point of this video. So my perspective was, or which I used, but somewhat later, so it wasn't so useful anymore, was the fact that I looked at it as something that would shape me, something that would make me become a man that I actually want to become. And that suddenly switched my neurons in my brain, let's call it like that, and I started to feel much better. Of course, there was my mistake that I could have done something else. I could have worked on at least one of those, but sometimes it just happens and you don't do what you know you can do, because I could definitely influence that situation that I was in, but I didn't, and so I had to live through it and live with those emotions all the time, all day long, even throughout the night and so on. And so if you find yourself in a position not like mine, because I could have influenced it, but in a situation when you can't really influence what's happening, then try looking at it from a different point of view. Look at it as something that will make you become someone you actually want to become, something that will shape you into a person that you want to be shaped into, basically. Because we know that hard or difficult times make strong men. And so if you find yourself in a difficult position, then try having this mindset. Like, don't look at it as a victim, that you are suffering, that you're going through a situation that nobody has ever gone through, that you are the victim, you are in pain, that other people should respect you for being able to withstand that sort of a position. But that's just not the right way to go about it, because you're playing the victim. And so try looking at it from the other position or from the other perspective, as I mentioned. Try looking at it as something that will shape you. And we know that it actually will, because we don't really grow from the experiences which are positive, we mostly grow from the ones that aren't. And so stick this to your brain, that whenever you are in a position that you are suffering, you are depressed, you don't know what to do with your life, but it mostly has to be a position or situation when you can't really influence what's happening. Try looking at it as something that's happening for your own good, something that will make you grow, and something that you will be able to extract lessons from and learn from those situations. And I have, as I mentioned, gained a lot of experiences, a lot of lessons throughout that time, even though it was one of my worst periods of my life. And this is a symbol of that. If you know who Hamza Ahmed is, then you know what it is. If not, then I will explain what I meant by this symbol. I didn't do it because of him, because he has it or he has done it, or nor did I do it because I wanted to look better with that on my eyebrow, but instead I used it as a symbol. Firstly, I meant it to change my identity, that basically I wanted to become a different person, and I wanted this to be a symbol of that, so that whenever I would try to do something my old self would normally do, I would be reminded that I'm not that self anymore with that symbol. And that was like my main idea of doing this. But instead it worked for 1 day or 1.5 days, and then it stopped working. I got back to my old self. I started doing all the bad habits which I didn't want to do, and it was during that hell week, basically, that when I wanted to work on my, you could say, business, but my YouTube channels, and I wanted to work on studying for my exams so that I would pass without worrying about anything else. And I didn't do neither one of them, and so I wanted to change myself so that I would actually get into the momentum and start working hard again. And instead of that, I mean, it actually happened, but only for that 1.5 days. After that, I got back to my old habits, as I mentioned, but eventually 3 days till my exams, I actually got back my rhythm. Not really working rhythm like on my YouTube channels, because as you saw, I wasn't posting anything recently, but instead I started studying super hard. I studied from morning till evening for 3 days or around that time, and it brought results because I passed my exams without any problems. And so what I actually wanted to mention or talk about when I mentioned this short story is that this symbol now symbolizes that I have went through that hell week, through that period of constant suffering, and to make it clear, it was internal suffering, not outer. And so that might for some people be even worse. And what I'm talking about is a subjective experience, because any person or any other person would definitely go through it in a different way, because for somebody else my type of suffering is nothing, whereas for another person it could actually be even worse. And so, just generally speaking, if you're going through a difficult situation, try thinking of it as something that will make you grow, something that you will learn from. And when the moment ends, or you pass that sort of situation, for me that was that hell week, then engrave it in your brain that you have went through that sort of situation and you have managed to go about it successfully. And so for me, I still haven't mentioned it, this is the symbol of that. Now I always can look back that I have been able to go through that suffering, and I always can remind myself of that situation or that moment with this symbol. And whenever there is another situation that's currently happening, and it's horrible, I can always think back that I have gone through horrible suffering, this is nothing for me, I can go through it easily. And so this is the main point of this video. Whenever a bad situation is happening, try to go through it, think of it as something that you can learn from, something that is happening in order for you to grow and learn new lessons that you haven't learned yet, and maybe even try having something that will remind you that you were able to pass or go through that situation. And whenever another situation in the future pops up, you will always remember that you have gone through a more horrible situation and now it's not that bad, and you can easily go about it, go through it, and not get consumed by your stress, by that overall situation. And so hopefully you got the ideas from this video that I was trying to say or convey. If not, you can always ask me questions in the comments and I will try to answer all of them. And if you like this video, then you can watch this video next.